Hello and welcome to the Menfulness podcast. Thank you so much for joining us once again. I had planned on having this podcast out on schedule for last weekend, but, well, life got in the way, and I think we've got to be okay with that this time of year, in particular, because, well, we have to give up quite a bit of control, don't we? Christmas comes along whether you like it or not, and all the songs on the radio change, and there's expectations on us and other people's timescales, and it can be a lot, generally. And then add on to that anyone who's out there missing loved ones, wishing they were spending time with their kids, just whatever it is that you're carrying right now. We see you, and we're here for you. So if you need us, just get in touch, menfulness.org, or give us an email, yorkmenfulness@gmail.com. But anyway, it is behind us now, and so however it was for you, we hope you are chilled out and relaxed and trying to make some time for yourself. Now, it is the season for gifts, and we've got a Christmas miracle for you today with the final founder to join us on the podcast. Mike Hewitt is here. He has graced us with his time and his words, and it's a brilliant bumper edition, and we're glad to get this in before the year is out. So Mike is a founder and treasurer for Menfulness. We talk about his reasons behind it, how he came up with the name, how the group helps him through life, and how his past and his present relationships with his family make him the man he is today. And most importantly, we learn about friendship chemistry. What is it, and why does Jack hate it so much? Before that, though, a quick bit of feedback from the last episode with Nick Sinclair. This is from Simon Long. The latest podcast, OK Hand, Blue Heart, really relatable. Perfect one to listen to after completing the mental health first aid course. His feeling of isolation, distancing himself from others to benefit himself, and how he's benefited coming off social media. Mainly for me, it was understanding how he'd come out the other end, and is now counselling others and paying it forward. Thank you, Si. Completely agree, mate. What a story, and so much useful info in there, whether you're struggling right now yourself or if you're supporting somebody who is. So please do check that one out after this episode. Also, Simon is one of our volunteers, and he's currently running a monthly breakfast club at Poppleton in All Saints Hall. The next one is on Sunday the 29th of January. Expect bacon sarnies, cups of tea, and good chats with sound folk. Permission is always given if you want to share what you're going through, but as always, that's just at your own pace when you're ready. More information on that on our meetup.com/menfulness for that event and future events. Do please book on before you turn up. And thank you to Simon for all he's doing for our group. Don't forget, we're putting this out for free because we love you and you are worth it. But if you like what we're doing, then why not tell someone about it? Maybe give us a like and a comment if you see this on our socials, or share it with someone who you think might find it useful. It is you who can get this out to where it needs to be. Now, it's time for the wise, yet sometimes elusive, Mike Hewitt. Mike Hewitt, welcome.
Cheers, mate.
The elusive Mike Hewitt is with us. How are you today, Mike?
I'm good, buddy. It's great to be here. I've had the pleasure of your man cave once before.
That sounds so wrong, doesn't it?
I know. Well, it was a little wrong, but also right at the same time. But no, yeah, man, it's great to be here.
The big question out there at the moment on everyone's lips is, why are you avoiding me? Why are you so elusive? What's going on? I'm so glad you're finally here before the year is out. That's exciting. But you avoided me, bro.
No, I think we've just been a bit busy and some home renovations and just the house is upside down, and it's just been, kids gone back to school and it's all just been a bit mad, really. A couple of changes of job and stuff like that.
Yeah, you have had it pretty busy lately.
Yeah, it's been busy, mate. It's been busy. So, and
I won't take it personally then.
Don't take it personally, mate. I mean, it's only like 10% due to you.
But have things calmed down a little bit? Do you get a reprieve as Christmas comes in? Do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's full on now. It's Christmas, isn't it? I've got 3 kids.
I was going to say, you are probably one of the busiest people I know, but you also make the least noise about it. Let's just let people know that you are a founder, first of all and foremost.
Yeah.
You're our treasurer.
Yep.
I'd say you're the responsible dad of the group. I mean, that's not an age thing either. It's,
No,
I think you are a bit older than me.
I'm
You're
a
not
bit
the
older
oldest
than
in
you.
the group,
Yeah,
are you?
yeah, no,
Are
no,
you?
no. I'm not. I'm
Oh.
not. I think I'm in the middle somewhere.
How old are you, Mike?
Not 40.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we've definitely got.
Not far away, but not
So
40.
Jack's oldest, then, is he?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Dan.
Oh, it's Dan. Oh, yeah, Dan's old. Dan's 40.
Yeah,
over
yeah.
40
I'm
as
smack
well.
bang in the middle, I think.
Okay, I'm 37.
Yeah,
Matty's
yeah, yeah.
about
12.
15 years. Right, okay. Well, also, as well as dad of the group, and by that I just mean it feels like you're the responsible one. I'm glad you're in charge of the funds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're a dad at home as well. 3 kids?
Yeah, 3 kids, 3 great kids. They're great 90% of the time. Incredible wife who, God knows how she puts up with me half the time, if I'm honest. Yeah. Who does, let's be honest, you think I look calm and I've got loads going on, she'll have 3 times as many because she's got 4 kids.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Yeah, I mean, I think after all this, we should probably have the partners on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's fair that they get to tell their side of the story. But I am interested in how you do it, because as long as I've known you, which is a good few years now, I think I've seen you slightly peeved at worst on one occasion, and you had you were looking at new jobs. You had all sorts going on at that time. People renovating your house, and it was all that was kicking off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would have floored most people. That just slightly knocked you off. Other than that, how do you maintain that kind of plateau of stable father-like responsibility that you do?
I mean, I am partial to a rant here or there. I try and temper myself,
Right.
But I think I'm very logistically minded. I am very logistically minded. Stuff goes, about 2 or 3 years ago, me and my wife got an online calendar, and there was partial resistance from my wife, but I wasn't updating the paper one. So it was either some calendar or no calendar. So now we have everything is on a shared calendar.
Yeah.
And that is like my sort of daily Bible for what I'm doing, especially at the minute, because today 2 of the 3 were in Christmas clothes. Tomorrow one of them's in Christmas clothes.
Okay.
Friday it's bring a toy if you're in key stage 2, or there's all these things, and it's just a case of keeping on top of updating it.
Yeah.
Middle one was at a birthday party today, so I picked him up before I came here and dropped him off, and and there'll be times when me and Helen, my wife Helen, will only communicate for maybe 10 minutes a day because we'll be passing through, and it just it's busy, mate, and I think it's one of them things though. Sometimes if you have one of them days where you start off busy, you stay busy all day, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
And you have them days where you start off doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And then the one job you had to do that day.
Yeah.
Suddenly, just before you need to actually do something that you genuinely need to do, like pick the kids up from school, you're suddenly rushing around at 3 o'clock, and you need to be out of the house by 20 past, trying to do the washing.
We're weird, aren't we?
And
I must admit, when I started to feel like I needed to do less, and I started to let go of certain things, I just filled that space with more stuff. So it doesn't matter how busy I am, I need to be this busy. Are you like me? Do you align how good your day is by how much of your to-do list you've ticked off and got done? Or do you give yourself time to relax?
Oh, no, I have time to relax and stuff, but I do make lists. I make lists for everything.
Listy Mike.
Listy Mike from the radio, Matty baptised me, Listy Mike. But that's just the way my brain works. It's in lists, it's in columns, and that's probably why I missed the meeting when the treasurer job was given out.
Really?
Yeah. It was
Mike could be good at that.
Yeah, basically we were. It was when it was Yorkie Dads, and the guys got together and they had a meeting, and I just couldn't make it. So I didn't make the meeting, and all the jobs were divvied out. Oh, by the way, Mike, we thought you'd be really good as treasurer. And I thought, does that mean you think I'm a boring bastard?
It means that if something goes wrong, we can blame you. And also that it probably is the most important job of any charity or business or, Yeah, you're the unsung hero. And I say that with all honesty, is that we come to you and we ask how are things going, can we do this, and you come to us and tell us, and every sort of purchase or deal or partnership or everything has to kind of go through you, and you get very, it's not one of those things where you go, oh, I'll go and get my photograph taken, or I'll go and be thanked by somebody, or I'll get to see. It's so to start with, a massive thank you on behalf of everybody, trustees, members. We appreciate you. We know what you're doing behind the scenes. It is not easy. It's not straightforward talking accountancy and organising all that stuff. So thank you for what you do, brother.
Well, thanks, mate. I mean, I don't know whether you heard the rustles of me uncomfortably shuffling in my seat.
Face cringed invertedly.
Yeah. Look, we all play a vital role. Everybody in Menfulness plays a vital role. Us guys who set it up and run it, we all have our niche and our role, and they merge and they change during the passage of time. And I think that's the beauty of the group of, like, the 5 of us who run it, is that we all genuinely appreciate what each other brings to the table.
Yeah.
And I think that mutual respect, that the friendship that's been generated between the 5 of us, and because we all have a common goal, and we have the same core values, so that whenever there is something, a curveball, we can all come back to what are our core values and core goals with what we're trying to achieve with Menfulness. And I think that because of that, we can be so honest with each other and actually genuinely air exactly how we feel without fear of offending each other.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we have big shouting rows, do we?
No.
But we air how we feel. But we're also all open-minded enough to take on somebody else's opinion, and actually have our own opinion maybe moulded slightly, or we're prepared to make some slight concessions of exactly how we feel, because actually, that is more aligned to what the group's values are. And I think what that does is it creates a really good system of governance for us as an organisation, and it comes to pass that we're all essentially, I would class you and the other guys as like really, really good friends, like genuinely really good friends, on top of the fact that we somehow have created this,
Yeah, it feels like a roller coaster at times in the speed that it's going, and you're right, we're learning on the fly in some respects. I mean, I said to Pete, I was like, we need to surround ourselves with people like you, Pete, because we don't always know what we're doing.
Of course
and
we do.
He corrected me and said, well, you do a bit, because some of it is about that kind of relationship between us 5. We've all got different backgrounds. We all have different reasons for being here.
Yeah.
Some of us presently dealing with stuff. Some of us previously dealing with stuff. Walks of life, jobs. We're all we bring a very varied thing to what is essentially 5 blokes trying to make other blokes' lives slightly better.
100%. And I think that's the thing. We've all sort of, I've never had I would never say I've had a breakdown. I've never had any massive bouts of depression or anything like that. I wouldn't say I suffer from anxiety. However, I have to I know there is massive merit in proactively managing my mental health.
Yeah.
By various different means.
Yeah.
And being part of this group has made me realise that more than ever.
Yeah.
And, like I say, we've never been precious about anything to do with Menfulness. We're precious about the actual thing it is, but we're not precious about what activities are run by it or anything like that. And, it's always just been really good fun, hasn't it?
Yeah. If someone comes up with an idea that we think that could work, then how can we facilitate that person to be able 100%. To do that?
And it's just been really, really good fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes I look at it and I think, how on earth did us 5 end up in this sort of spot where we are? And then I look at it and I think, well, you look at the different skills that like you bring and Matty brings and Jack brings and Dan brings, and I think, well, why wouldn't we end up here? Look at the skills that are being brought to the table by these individuals. And
we're greater than the sum of our parts, and I think that can probably be said by most people. But I think the beauty of what we've got is an opportunity to bring blokes together and facilitate that. And I think that it's community, isn't it? I think we need 100%. It more than ever. We needed it big time through COVID. That's when I came to Menfulness. That's when you guys were, invited me on board. And I'll be honest with you, it's changed my life in big time. And it's given what once felt like a dark secret that I couldn't really tell anyone into something that is a purpose and something that drives me. When I get up and I get a message from one of you guys going, "Morning, boys, what's going on today?" Then this is what it's like. This is where I should be. I'm doing the right thing now. So
I mean, and that's it. And I mean, I remember, like, it was like speaking to Jack and Dan and them, and like it was the biggest no-brainer decision. Like, you know, and I'd seen you. Funny enough, mate, I'd seen your name I'd seen your name years and years and years ago, and I, you know, in someone, and I'll never forget the first time we met in person, and it was a very inconsequential meeting, and you probably won't remember, so I'm going to put you on the spot.
When did I first meet you?
Not officially, but I'm not your stalker, by the way. Not anymore.
This wasn't where we met at the bar in town, was it?
No,
we've met previously to that, had we?
We were both giving blood at Stockton-on-the-Forest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See,
Okay.
Bit of a fanboy, clearly. But yeah, and I remember having a very brief chat with you, and I thought, he's quite a cool guy. And I'd read your name somewhere or seen your name somewhere, and that was ages ago. It was pre-COVID,
right?
And I don't know why that's always sort of like stuck in my head, really.
Yeah, and so back before COVID, pretty much was when I was in my most anxious, and when I was kind of at my most in despair. Really, I didn't know how my life was going to go with this newfound anxiety. I wasn't quite aware of why it was happening, and so I was having some CBT. I was trying to remain a friend and partner and stuff like that. And then COVID hit, and so for me, COVID hit at the sort of time that I needed to probably not have expectations on me and things like that, give me a chance to actually go over things in my head. But before that, I mean, I'd done a few blogs here and there. I was trying, to be honest, on social media about who I was.
Maybe Jack had like commented or shared some of yours, maybe, or so
That's awesome, man. Thank you, and again, thank you. I do genuinely. I'm so grateful to be part of this ship. I don't know where it's going. No. You know, I know there's been talk where we would like it to grow. The idea of it growing beyond York's boundaries, the idea of it continuing to grow within York, all those things are a possibility. But for me, I get as much from doing this as I put in.
100%.
So we keep going, right?
Yeah, man. And I think that's it, isn't it? Like, you know, most people have heard the story of how Menfulness was created from Jack. So it started sort of initially as the Yorkie Dads, didn't it? Like, you know, and it was created as Yorkie Dads, and it was me, Jack, and Dan, and we sort of needed some sort of male company, essentially. So I know Jack's sort of reasons and Dan's reasons is, you know, I worked shifts.
Yeah.
So I would go to the mother and baby groups. Sometimes it depended who was working, me and Helen, and so I would go to the mother and baby groups, which were great. They'd look after you, everything was fine. So I'd 9:30 till 11:00 with my eldest. I'd be at a mum and baby group. Great, socialise, have a chat. Everything was lovely.
Yeah. You felt welcome there.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Oh, more than you would ever believe. 11:00 hits, time to go home. What do I do for the rest of the afternoon? Who do I socialise with for the rest of the afternoon? All my mates are at work.
Yeah.
All the other dads I know are at work.
Yeah.
I can't invite any of these mums back to my house for a coffee. Or I feel like I can't, because I'm thinking, well, are you thinking I'm trying to hit on you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course, yeah.
So, although it was really cool to be able to spend lots of time with my eldest, and really cool to do loads of cool stuff with him, and I filled the day as best I could, still, it was kind of a bit lonely as well.
Yeah.
In that, you know, it would just be me and him to have a conversation with, and it was great. And I would never trade it for the world. You know, that time was just fantastic.
Yeah.
But there were times when it would, you know, and I would always plan stuff. I'd have somewhere to go or something to do.
Yeah.
Just on the proviso that it would mean that I wasn't just in the house on my own kind of thing. And so that's kind of why the Yorkie Dads thing got set up, was so that we could have someone on a Saturday morning. And that grew and grew and grew and was really, really, really good. And then there was sort of the peer-to-peer support. And then we had people saying, like, you know, I'm not a dad. Can I join? I'm not a weirdo. I've heard that there's like some cool support. And I remember there was one post on a dad was, I think his wife or his partner had gone away. Baby was about 5 months old. And he's like, just this panicked post on on the Facebook page, I'm struggling, lads. My partner's away. It's the first time she's left me in charge of baby overnight with it. You know, like the last thing on earth I want to do is trouble her. However, loads of running nappies, bright red cheeks, loads of drool, irritable. I'm panicking. That there's like something wrong. Do I need to take them to a doctor's? And look, we didn't give medical advice out.
No, probably teeth though.
Correct, Mundo. So we were like, within 20 minutes, 5 to 10,
hive mind.
Literally like bang, sounds like TV, mate. Sounds like grab some of this stuff. This is pretty good. This Dentinox stuff numbs the gums a bit. Don't worry about it. It's fine. You've got this. And it was like, bloody hell. That's a bit
what I needed.
That's decent. And that was, and this guy was like, thanks, fellas. Like,
crisis averted. He's feeling like he's failing somehow.
Yeah, well, he's panicking as well because he doesn't want to be seen to be a failure to his partner. He doesn't want to have to interrupt his partner's time. Well-deserved time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no one wants to feel like a failure, do they? Do you know what I mean? So,
but they say it takes a village to raise a child, and actually,
sometimes
you need other people to 100%. Go, I've been there, I know what you're going through.
And so that's how it sort of came about, and then people said, say, can we join, basically? And like, well, that's a bit odd. We can't really have just random blokes joining, so we're going to have to create something else. So me, Dan, and Jack sort of went away and had a bit of a think and went to a few meetings, and there's a few kind of like sounding boards, and we were like, well, I'm not really sure what this is going to look like.
So was this before? Because I've heard about the meeting where Pete Quinn went, and that was I think that might have been quite late on. That was when you were deciding it was going to definitely happen, was it?
Yeah, kind of. That was still sort of in its infancy. So we owe a lot to Joe Garden, and to Pete, obviously.
From Social Vision.
Yeah, because Joe sort of was helping out, sort of driving stuff, and he'd been running like a football night, sort of for dads and things like that. And we were like, right, and how's this going to work, and what we're going to do, and what events are we going to put on?
So you decided by that point it was going to happen, but you just didn't know how it was going to look.
Yeah, and I think what had happened is that, like, so my kids are currently 6, 7, and 9. They were getting to an age where they were going to school a bit more, and clubs were starting to come up on a Saturday morning. And so although the Yorkie Dad stuff was great and was running really nice, and we had it all running and it was doing well, we weren't perhaps going to as many of those events, which was fine, because they were still running, the support was still there. But then we were like, well, there's got to be some kind of social aspect to this that we can get going with it, you know. So that's sort of where it came about, really. It's like, right, well, we could probably set something up here, and then
it was born.
And then it was born.
And I understand you were the brainchild of that of the name.
Yeah, we knew that it would be for mental health or promotion of positive mental health. Now, because that's how I see it. Like, I understand that there's people who come to Menfulness with diagnosed mental health issues. Now, for me, it's more about promoting my own good mental health.
Yeah.
And as soon as you say mental health to a lot of people, they think of, oh, God, mental health.
Yes.
No. Everyone's got mental health. It's the same as physical health. You can be in good physical health. You can be in average physical health. You can be in bad physical health. Same with your mental health. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
And when you and phrasing it like that, I know that being part of Menfulness, socialising and doing events, exercise and stuff promotes my mental health.
Some people say it's like gym for the mind. I can't remember who it was. Someone on this podcast, actually.
Exactly.
But yeah.
100%.
So you don't have to be at crisis point or have been told that this is what you've got going on.
No.
Sometimes it can be, I just want to grow my network a little bit, speak to people,
100%.
play some sport.
Well, this was the other thing. I'd come to York with work, didn't know anybody.
Is that how you came to York? I've not even done any background on you yet, Mike.
It's all right, man. It's all right.
You came to York.
Well, no, let's go back to when I came up with the name of it. Like,
okay, sorry. Let's give you the kudos it deserves. Yeah, was it a light bulb?
Yeah, we were just throwing names around and different words and puns and stuff like that, and we didn't want it to say mental health for the reasons we've just gone through.
Yeah,
I drastically did not want it to say mental health.
Yeah, and
it was like, right, what can we do? And I was like, well, like mindfulness is a bit less mental healthy.
Yeah,
mindfulness. And then just, what about Menfulness? And Jack was like, yeah, it's all right. Yeah, I was like, yeah, Menfulness. And they were like, and then so that was it, and we just kind of settled on it. Really, it wasn't like, oh mate, there was no like ideas board, and know, there was none of
just throwing it out. How long did it take for you to?
I think we took about 5 to 10 minutes, if that.
I love that. Some things are just right, aren't they? Pete said, what did he say? He said something along the lines of, when you hear it, you don't really have to ask what it's about.
And that's
you kind of know.
And I think that's what happened. So we were spitballing it round, and it was like, right, mindfulness is about promotion of good mental health and sort of stuff like that. I don't know the full ins and outs of mindfulness, so I'm probably ad-libbing a little bit there. And it was just, well, we need to get men in there somewhere because we're aiming at men.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, that kind of fits on there all right, actually, doesn't it?
Massively. Yeah, mindfulness is about trying to experience the present moment. And so for me, as somebody who is anxious, so for me, the idea of sort of imposter syndrome, worrying, stress, making sure, needing people to like me, all those things are rooted in other people's opinions, things that have happened in the past, things that might happen in the future. Mindfulness is about being in the present moment.
Yeah.
So it's not worrying, trying to experience what is actually happening right now. Some people do it through breath work. Some people do it through guided meditation, that sort of thing. Mindfulness is about what is happening to you right now, and how does and that can be quite relieving for people who are, did I do the right thing then? What might happen next? How am I supposed to survive through this crazy world that's going around, that's happening around me?
100%.
You know, so it works really well in that respect. But also, we've got Danny, one of our members. His band is called The Fullness.
Is it?
Yeah. And he's a member of ours, and his band was called The Fullness well before that, and his songs largely are about how to experience the fullness of life.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so that you know, there's the way that you can look at it from different angles, and it makes sense. So the fact that it pinged out after 5 or 10 minutes of just throwing names around is quite lovely.
I like a pun down, mate. You know,
absolutely.
I like. You know, I think I could have potentially been a headline writer in another life. I think it's something that I like doing, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the Christmas crackers jokes, they are like that's like me, that's my like forte for like, right, I will sit there and like, don't give the answer. I want to get this right.
This is more of a quiz than a
joke.
Yeah.
This, right, get the words, get the word associations, right, how can I make those rhyme? Do you know what I mean? Like, definitely. I've got to get this. You know, like
Okay, amazing. Right, so kudos to you, sir, on the name, because I think it works. I think it
sometimes
makes sense.
Any one of us could have come up with that. It just fell out my mouth and
worked.
Away. So we were just like, and I think that is the epitome of the fact that none of us are precious about anything. Like, oh yeah, that works. Just go for it.
Yeah.
No one's like, oh
well, hang on a second.
Hang on. Well, I prefer my name, you know. And I was like, look, boys, if you like it, then we'll go for it, like, and see how it goes. Like,
so since then, what does Menfulness mean to you now? How has it impacted your life? Can we maybe talk about a bit of background about you and how you've ended up from Manchester way, Stockport way, isn't it? To being sat in front of me right now.
In this man cave.
Just a chronology, if you will. You've got an hour or so.
So yeah, man. So I was born in Stockport, which is just sort of South Manchester. Mum and dad, sister. It was pretty steady upbringing.
Are you older brother?
Yeah, older brother. We had, we weren't minted. We weren't on holiday and stuff like that. But both my parents worked. You know, we were comfortable, I'd say. Comfortable to a point. If there was a school trip, I could go on a school trip, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But we weren't spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds on the latest like gadgets and gizmos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I played a lot of sport as a kid. And that was great. And I mean, I suppose if you're looking for like the why for Menfulness, so when I think I was about 14 or 15, it was probably the early 90s, through no real fault of his own and due to financial crash, my dad was made redundant. And then sort of was struggling to get back into his field because there weren't many jobs in it. And sort of consequently, he well, he left home, left a note saying that we'd be better off without him, and that was that really. So, well, fortunately, he was found, got treatment, so on and so forth. And I think at the time I didn't really understand it.
No. Well, you were how old did you say?
I'd reckon I couldn't tell you exactly, and I think that shows my attitude towards it in a weird kind of way, in the fact that I just thought, why are you doing that? I think I lost a bit of respect for my dad at that point, and I shouldn't have done. And I'm frustrated with myself for that. But you can't go back.
No.
When this, we haven't got a flux capacitor, have we?
No.
Well, you've got a Back to the Future Christmas jumper on, mate.
With the flux capacitor on back.
Yeah, well, there you go, mate. I told you I like a pun, so I'm going to start bringing stuff like that in. And so so you haven't got time for that. And I use humour as a deflection, by the way, and self-depreciation.
But you were a young guy, and you were still figuring out who you were. That's quite a lot for you to.
Yeah, it was. I mean, so I didn't really react brilliantly to that, I don't think. And I was probably a bit of a dick to my dad.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the reason I think I can't remember when it was is because I didn't really give it the magnitude of what it was.
Yeah.
I kind of blamed him a bit, really, which was stupid, really. So that came about. Then I went to university in Sheffield. So I did all right at school. Went to university in Sheffield. Had a great time.
What did you study?
I studied criminology and social policy. Partly because it was 8 hours a week of lectures and then loads of reading, allegedly, which I generally had a job and went drinking and socialising.
Yeah.
Just had a really good time for 3 years.
Yeah.
So that was great. Had a great time in Sheffield. Finished there. So I stayed in Sheffield and sort of had a full-time job. The guys I met like 4 other guys they were best man and ushers at my wedding. Still incredible friends with them, like 20 years later. Well, next year will be the 20-year anniversary of us guys meeting. So that's it. I mean,
Amazing.
To stay friends with them is incredible. And, went to Cardiff with them a few months ago, and it's
Still
incredible.
Make an effort to see each other.
Well, they're just top guys. And I consider that I kind of grew up with them in a weird kind of way. We were all away from home for the first time. I learned so much from those 4 blokes, and I still do. And Nate was my best man at my wedding, incredible bloke. What he's achieved is incredible. Ben, probably the calmest guy you'll ever meet. Steve, he's my best friend, and we probably see each other twice a year, but we speak probably 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Then you got Dave down south, constantly teaching my children how to pronounce stuff wrong. But this is like the measure. When was it? It was after I'm digressing here, but never mind. It was after one of the terrorist attacks in London. Helen was going down with my eldest, as she did with all of them, just before they started school. And it literally happened 2 days before she was going. And she was, I don't know whether to go. I don't know whether not to go. And she takes them
just on a trip to
to
London.
So each of the kids, she's gone to London with them, just for like a kind of last mummy child event. Okay. Down into London, see the sights together.
Right, that's lovely.
Oh, it's incredible. And that's
that's what she does. But then the concern that actually is it a safe place to go?
Yeah, and she puts something on, and she's maybe met Dave 2-3 times. So she puts this on, she puts something on Facebook, as you do, like, me and George going on our little do, bit worried about what's going on. Now, Dave doesn't contact me, sends Helen a message. It's going to set me off again, this. Hi, Helen, it's Dave, blah, 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 blah. Just to let you know, I'm at home all weekend. If anything happens, ring me, I'll be with you in 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it?
And he lives just outside London, and it set me off. And that literally just put Helen's mind at rest immediately. Yeah. Oh, somebody can just literally drive into London, scoop us up, and we'll be safe.
Yeah, good people. And
it was just like, and he didn't need to do that.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination. It's way over and above what I would have expected anyone. But that's the kind of like, those are the kind of people that I was fortunate enough to kind of fall into a house with.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I went to uni. That was great. Finished uni. I stayed. They all had stayed. 3 of the lads stayed on, and I stayed on with them, just working in Sheffield. Signed a 12-month contract on a house. Got a job in York. Got with a girl. Moved into a house. So I'm paying. So at this point, I'm paying double rent, which wasn't ideal.
No.
It didn't really work out between me and this girl. But just before it didn't work out, we signed a 6-month extension to our contract.
No.
So I ended up we were living in Easingwold at the time, so I ended up moving to York, paying double rent again.
Oh,
so I am brassic.
yeah.
I mean, I would suggest. I don't. It's a weird one, mate, because I would have thought, when I look back, that would be like, oh God, yeah. Was I depressed at that point, or was that my most depressed? Do you know what? In a weird kind of way, it wasn't. I would, and I mean brassic. Like, I sold my car, couldn't afford to run my car.
Man.
Yeah, I was.
So you're working, but you're paying a rent for a place that you're not living at, so you're completely skint.
My principle with the lads is that I couldn't put someone else into my room that I was renting, because why the hell should they? I signed a contract with them. I'd made a commitment, and I'm somebody who I feel that if I make a commitment,
Yeah.
I will see that commitment through.
Yeah.
So that happened, and so I biked everywhere. I literally biked everywhere.
Right.
I biked to work. I biked to the gym. I mean, I've never been physically as fit as I was then, and honestly, I was like, sometimes before payday, going into the bank and drawing out £8.53. Because that's
what you had left.
Because that's all I had, and I couldn't get it out of a cash point.
Man,
maybe it wasn't quite that bad at times, but I remember it was that bad at uni. But that's uni life, isn't it? But yeah, so I was broke. Like,
so moving to York, you were skint straight away.
Yeah.
And York's expensive place to be anyway.
So, but in a weird kind of way, I lived a sort of semi-insular life.
Yeah.
For about 6 or 7 months, in that I just biked to the gym, biked to work, biked home, ate chicken, couscous, and salad.
Living the dream.
Yeah. Played a load of PlayStation.
Yeah.
Bike to work, bike to the gym, and and that's just literally what I did. And I just kind of worked on myself, like mostly physical fitness and stuff, and played a load of sport. Got back into rugby, and so there were outlets of but it was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough at times. I mean, Christ, I met Helen and I didn't have a car.
Right. How many years ago then?
Oh, that would have been 2008. So 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, over 14 and a half years ago.
So she kind of liked you for your car. or you...
Well, funny enough, I think, yeah.
So can you figure out why yet, about what it was about you that she liked?
No. I think Helen's still trying to work it out, to be honest, mate. But yeah, so we got together. And then I wasn't really in a position to buy a house.
Yeah.
But we rented a flat for a while. By this point, I'm no longer paying double rent, so I'm on an upward trajectory.
Things are picking up. Yeah.
I've never got myself into financial trouble in terms of I didn't borrow money.
No.
I just didn't have any.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I could have easily borrowed tons of money.
Yeah.
But then I would have just been in a right pickle if I'd have done that. So I thought, do you know what? I'm just gonna have to suck it up,
rein it in, tighten the purse strings.
Yeah. And that was fine. So we got flat, and then we sort of went from strength to strength, really. And then here we are.
So 9 years ago, children came into your life.
Yeah. So we got married in 2012, and then first George was born 2013. And then Stan was born 2015.
Right, I'm going to stop you there, right? Because I've had one, and it's intense, right? And some people go, oh, I want 2 kids before they've had any.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want loads of kids, yeah, before they've had any. Now, how did you already know you wanted a bunch? Did you already know you wanted to,
Yeah.
You did. And that didn't change, you weren't...
Bizarre. Yeah, I think my mum could probably regale this tale better than me, but I think I'd sort of told my mum from a reasonably early age that I would be having kids by the time I was 28. Now I was
Yeah.
2 years late, I think. About 2 years late.
Yeah.
But
You just knew.
yeah, I think I had younger cousins who were like sort of 10 years younger than me, and so on and so forth. So I kind of was around younger siblings, and my kind of generation were most of sort of like my extended family were generally younger than me by a few years.
Yeah.
So I was used to being around younger kids, and it didn't really bother me that much. So we had Stan, and then we had another. And we had Martha.
And that's, how do you manage? Because I mean, like I say, like the idea of having another one now, childcare, sleep, the stress, the impact, the changes to me, to Anna. I've noticed that there are many layers to parenthood
Oh, 100%.
that I wasn't expecting. Like I knew some of them were coming.
Yeah.
There's some that I didn't expect.
Well, I remember going for a run with you. Do you remember?
And me being like, how the fuck am I gonna? You seem to be pretty good at this thing.
Nah, you had it covered. I knew you had it covered. I remember telling you on the run. I said, "Look, Sam, you've got this covered, mate." Like,
I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I imagine there are other blokes out there that can spend a lot of their lives acting like they know what they're doing, but feeling like they're blagging it, and that actually that feeling, they have coping mechanisms for that.
Yeah.
But this is like, for me, this was the big test. This was, hang on, I can't blag this one. I can't pretend that I know what I'm doing. I can't expect everybody to agree with me on this one. And actually, if I think differently to Jimmy's parents, Jimmy's got an iPad and he's 4, and I'm like, nah, that doesn't feel right. I can't be going, well, if that's what Jimmy's parents are doing, here's your iPad. I can't. You've got to be. It's the one thing for me that you have to do on your own terms.
Yeah, 100%. You got to try and just try your best.
Yeah,
and show up as best you can.
Right.
And I remember on that run, I said to you, and I said, obviously this is contradictory, Sam.
Yeah.
I said, but don't take anyone's advice.
Mm.
And I said, I know this is advice, but what I'm saying is do what's right for you, Anna, and your baby. Don't do what's right for your great aunt Floss, who doesn't have a clue really, or this person thinks you should be doing this. Well, bully for you, but
everyone's different.
Yeah. How we deal with this, that, and the other, as long as we're doing it with the best intentions and the best way we can, then what could be any better for our child? Yeah, that child is a product of us. Yeah, so we're going to do our best for it. Yeah, and I mean, we had our 3.
And what I'm assuming it was massively stressful, especially when you've got one and then another one.
2 years,
2 years, and then another one less
16 months later.
Oh, so they're all different needs, different sleeping patterns. That must have been massively intense for you, right?
Well, I think it was more intense for Helen, if I'm honest, mate. They call it maternity leave. I mean, leave is a strong word.
Yeah, it's not exactly a holiday, is it?
No, it's not, mate. And I got to go to work and sort of have adult conversation, and I'd come home sometimes, and I'd Helen, I couldn't fathom it, mate, because I never did it. I never did I think very, very rarely, but I never really did the whole all 3 of them when they were that little together because it just didn't happen. But we had different we had to change our sleeping arrangements slightly and things like that. So Helen would sleep with Martha, and I would sort the boys. And if Martha had a bad night with Helen and been up all night feeding or whatever, then they might have a lie-in. Yeah. And we would just leave them to that, and I would sort the boys. And we kind of lived a little semi-separate lives, but we would make sure that we touch base with each other. I'm quite an affectionate person, so I will just, give hugs, give a kiss, and we just kind of did our best, really. Yeah.
Muddle through.
Yeah, and it's difficult to look back at it now because it seems so long ago.
Yeah. That also, your kids now, I've met them, I've spent time with them. I've, they're wonderful little human beings.
They are at times, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
They have
see
their
them all the
moments.
time,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
so
yeah.
much fun.
Yeah,
So doting on you and Helen. And,
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not going to take 10% of the credit for that. If I'm honest, like,
correct answer.
No, I'm not saying that just for that. Like, honestly, genuinely, mate. Like, I have learned so much, and like, Helen is the voice of reason in our relationship, especially when it comes to the kids sometimes, and like the development of stuff. Like, can they play this online game? And I'm just like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Right, mate. Let's,
Have we got any flexibility in that?
Let's have a chat about this, and then let's sort of like really rationalize this rather than just your hard stop no. Let's go through it and work it together and stuff. And
that's good, because then they get the outcome is a mixture of the both of you, which is what it should be, isn't it?
And that's done away from them generally.
Yeah.
So it's and then there's a united front.
Yes.
Yeah,
I understand that's important. It's not
massive.
Ask your mum. And then,
No. Hell no.
Oh, have you told them they can have ice cream for breakfast?
And there might be stuff like that, and you might just have to swallow it. Vice versa, where one of you has been more lenient than the other, or one of you has been more strict than the other, and there might be the odd thing that you disagree on, but it comes back to like that core values and core principles and core goals. If your core values are pretty much bang on aligned, then you're not going to deviate from those things that much, and that's why you married that person. That's why that's why you live with that person. That's why you chose to have children with that person, because you share those core values, and so there shouldn't be a massive like spread of how you feel about things. But
it's not easy. There's no dress rehearsal for it, though, is there? Like, I don't think I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, but there's no dress rehearsal for anyone, mate.
No, I guess the stakes are, for me. The stakes are higher than ever, because for me it was like, well, I can always sell that house, I can fold that business, I can leave that friendship. It's the thing that you do in life that you don't get a redo, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a really, really. Did I show it to you? I think I showed it to you a while ago. There's a really, really good YouTube video called Just a Normal Day.
Yes, you did.
I mean, it gets me every time. I mean, I'm a bit of a soppy soul.
You are a bit.
I am. I am a bit of a soppy soul.
And I love that.
Yeah, I can be found crying to films and stuff. I mean, George was watching Blinking Wonder this morning before school.
That's a good one, though.
Oh God, yeah. But I'm there like trying to like make Weetabix, nearly crying into it. It's like it's milk in this, Mike, not tears.
Salty Weetabix.
Yeah, come on, man. Like, So I have to say, parenting, I've learned a lot about myself. And again, I've just been lucky that the person who I chose to have children with and was fortunate enough to marry just stepped up beyond, like, the capacity Helen had for lack of sleep. And look, I tried I still did the getting up and stuff, but not as much as Helen by any stretch of the imagination. She was feeding and stuff like that. The capacity for her to function and still have patience to function was like superhuman. Like I've never like, and I'm sure lots of people feel the same way about it. But like I can't fathom it, to be honest. Like, I would go on a night shift, come home at 7 a.m. and I'm like, whoa, I'm tired out. And, and I would be tired out. I've been up maybe 23 hours. And Helen had been up pretty much all night feeding. And she's now got a full day of 3 children. God. And it's like, well, Mike can't stay up because he's got to go to bed because he's got another night shift tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? And then the added stress of, well, I've got these 3 children in the house and I've kind of got to keep them quiet-ish because
he needs to sleep.
But then, like, I honestly, mate,
it's mad, isn't it?
It's mad. Like,
it is. When you say superhuman, I think that's right. I remember Anna being in hospital after 5-6 days mid-COVID. I wasn't allowed to go in.
Yeah,
she's had to have an emergency C-section, so she's got
horrendous.
She's trying to learn to feed. She's got a screaming baby. I'm there for an hour a day, max, just taking.
Oh,
and
mate.
and it's like, how do you? It would have broken me.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
almost broke me just watching her do it. So the
Oh.
fact that she was,
Mate,
I'm with
emergency
you on that.
C-sections are awful. I mean,
Yeah, so Helen had one of them, did she?
yeah, yeah. So George was, well, he just wasn't coming out, little
Yeah.
sod.
Yeah.
You know, wasn't having any of it. So yeah, we had emergency C-section, but then there was a slight issue with the anaesthetic. So it kind of, instead of stopping at Helen's kind of like chest and neck area, it went up to kind of a nose area.
Oh God.
So she didn't know she was breathing.
She couldn't speak or move her mouth or.
She could kind of like, but she couldn't feel that she was breathing because she couldn't feel the movement of breathing.
Oh my God.
And it's funny because like we kind of laugh about it now. So I was kind of there, obviously reassuring Helen, and basically I kept putting my hand in front of her mouth. Every time she breathed, I would move it away. I was like, "See, you are breathing, you move." And then afterwards, she was like, "Do you know how annoying that was?"
You think I'm helping?
Yeah.
You said you were quite a methodical person. You're thinking this makes total sense
But she
to
couldn't
me.
tell me, "Stop being a prat. You're annoying the shit out of me."
Oh, God.
She was, because she could barely speak, so she was like, "God, that was."
I know I'm breathing because I'm conscious.
But weirdly, and it's that thing, isn't it? You're in this like panic mode,
Yeah.
and I thought I was really helping. I was probably helping me more than her.
Yeah.
In a weird kind of way, because by doing that with her breathing, unconsciously, I was then following that breathing. So I was regulating my own breathing. That wasn't a conscious thing, but when I look back at it and I think, yeah, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, she went through all that and everything else, and it just, yeah.
You get a newfound respect. I know everyone says that, but there is a different. It's a different level,
next level
of respect. And you have this amazing family now. You are an incredible unit. I'm so glad that you're like neighbour. You're round corner. I'm so glad to have you close. I'm so glad that I've got to spend a bit of time with your kids because they're amazing.
Yeah, they're good fun.
And when you're a parent of a baby yourself, it's like, oh well, you know, and your friends are doing it, and you're like, oh mate, you know, honestly, if Luna grows up to be like your kids are, I'll be very proud. They're all very polite, very happy. Really seem to get on. Do they get on?
Yeah, they're ups and downs, mate.
Right.
They're ups and downs. Like, you know, it's one of them things. Me and Helen quite often laugh about a third wheel. So any combination of two will probably do all right.
Right, okay, yeah.
Introduce the third, regardless of which one it is. Some are more unreasonable than others. We're not naming names on this podcast. But that quite often can throw a bit of a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
But do you know what?
Have they started to get to that age where they look after each other and they kind of help
Yeah,
you?
to a degree, and I can imagine it's difficult for my eldest George, because like we ask him to kind of keep an eye out for them, but then also don't want him to parent them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I know it's difficult for him to kind of. It's trying to find that level of like, well, I'm looking after you, but then I'm not, you know. And I can imagine it's a bit tricky for him there, really, with that. And there's a couple of times when I've kind of I've sort of told him off for something. I've thought, actually, but
I'm giving you a bit of an inch.
Yeah, well, you've kind of asked him to do that.
Yeah.
But then maybe his reaction to that has been a bit more than you wanted it to be. But
how much do they teach us? That's what it's mad how much we learn about ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Through that.
Well, you talk about mindfulness earlier.
Yeah.
That is a child is exactly that. They live in the
Just present. Yeah.
They might look back and forward a
Helps
little
you
bit.
stay present a bit, I find.
Yeah, definitely.
I look through things through new eyes, like, oh, what this is it. For Luna, it was if she was kicking off somewhere, she was struggling with stuff like a tree or a bush or leaves, greenery, nature. She'd just be mesmerised by it. And it was like, you start to look at it and think, why is this so... Oh God, that is actually quite incredible. And why? You know, you get new eyes, don't you, in that respect?
Yeah, you do.
And I wonder if also becoming a parent, you maybe look at your own parents through new eyes too. You kind of go, well, what does?
Well, funny enough, mate, that was a very nice little link. That. So, I obviously explained earlier that I was, you know, I reacted. I feel now looking back quite poorly to how my dad reacted, but then I look at it now and I think, God, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
That is a lot of responsibility to hold down a job, keep the money coming in, keep the status quo as you've grown to exist in. Yeah. You know, because you want to protect your children. You don't want them to have any worries of anything. And it's about, you know, and you know, that is something that I do have sort of in the back of my mind. I think to myself, like, something will happen and I'll think, is this when it all comes crashing down for me?
Right.
Or is this the point where the wheels come off?
You're almost half expecting
like
something to go wrong.
Yeah, like and is that just a natural thing that keeps you sharp and keeps you like doing what you need to be doing? Or is that just it's totally irrational at the minute. But I look back at, like I say, I don't know the exact every detail of what went on with my dad, and my dad's obviously still here. Like, you know, he still beats me at golf, and you know, with clubs that he likes to tell me I bought because he bought them with his state pension. Right. You know, at his older, you know, he's got to the age now where he gets a pension, and he sort of thanks me for the golf clubs. So I do have that in the back of my mind. I think, is this going to be it?
Yeah.
Is this the thing that sort of brings the house of cards coming down? And
right.
You know, and it comes and goes that in waves and stuff like that. And that's, I don't know whether there's like a specific name for that or.
Well, we're built to avoid danger. That's my anxiety is only, as much as I fucking hate it at times.
Yeah.
And it does my head in, and it feels real because it as well as a thought pattern, it comes along with what feels like palpitations and deep breathing.
Well, it is real,
it's panic.
isn't it?
It's panic. Yeah, it feels like something is dangerous to me.
Yeah.
That is merely to protect me. And even once upon a time, however long ago, tens of thousands of years ago, it might have been, I need to protect. I need to fight for my dinner, or someone's invading my cave. I mean, I'm really taking it back to the caveman style. You know what I mean? Is that our physical, emotional reactions to these things are evolutionarily developed, but actually, within a few hundred years, a few thousand years at most, what we're worried about is completely different. When we experience trauma or we have a troubling situation happen in our early life, the idea that we could grow up without it being massively important to us and governing some of the ways that we behave is ridiculous. Of course, we're designed to look out for risk, and for you, that was a risk to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're all irrational.
Yeah,
like it's completely irrational, but it's just something that every so often.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Is you know, and do you know what? Like you say, it's born out of the, and sometimes it's like, well, okay, well, it just keeps me a bit sharper. You know, there's been the odd bit where I've sort of catastrophized because something's happened that might lead to something, and I've thought, oh God, this is it. This is the thing.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
It's all coming crashing down now, Mike. You know, this thing that you've created.
Yeah.
You know, this life that you've created and that you've built with Helen, and it's going to come down now. This is it. This is the catalyst.
I think that is the ultimate explanation of imposter syndrome.
Right.
Is that for some people, it's I can't go on stage and speak.
Right.
Because I'll be found out, and you know, something will go wrong. People will realise I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's that kind of, I don't, for whatever reason, things seem to be going all too well right now.
Yeah.
People are going to figure out that this is not what, you know, and so you're not alone in that.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's more common than you realise.
Yeah. And you'll probably note through this conversation that I like to take things back to sort of humour and sort of general sort of mocking.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, I remember when Yorkie Dad's won an award at the council, and we were, you know, we won this award, and this bloke comes over and we're sort of just chit-chatting away, and I didn't realise who this chap was, and he happened to be sort of pretty high up in the council. He was like a couple of people's boss that were part, you know, Jack and Dan's. Was Dan working for the council? Maybe it was Jack's boss, I think, at the time. And he was like, you know, you guys have done really well, and la la la. And I just went, yeah, it's amazing what 4 bellends can do, isn't it? And it was like, and Jack was just a bit like,
wrong person to say that to. Did you not realise who you were speaking to at that time? Then no, you just thought it was some guy.
Oh, right. But that's my go-to kind of
Just
thing of like,
yeah,
play it off,
yeah,
dust it off, be a bit self-depreciative,
yeah.
and that'll be that. As it happened,
He was sound.
the fellow I said it to was absolutely spot on.
Most
and
people are.
I think maybe even the next time he saw Jack, said, "Now then, Belland," or something similar. So yeah, I think it was taken well, so to speak. But yeah, and I think, but that's, I've never been very good with praise. I'm not saying I don't like it. I know that sounds weird.
No. You are awesome though.
Shut up.
But I'll be honest, Jack, Dan, Matty was pretty good at it, to be quite honest. But in the first few interviews, yeah, thanking the lads, telling them that they were good enough, telling them that their contribution was meaningful. The squirm, was real. It's like we try, we want to be good enough, but when we're told we're good enough, that don't feel right either.
I think, like, you know, you talk about like the menfulness and the why of menfulness, and obviously the why's got various different things. Do I think my dad would have got into that pickle if menfulness existed where he was at that time? Perhaps not.
Yeah.
But
did he have a support network? Do you know? Was he able to talk about what he was?
See, I don't want to speak out of turn.
Yeah.
Or on my dad, but I don't think my dad, because he'd moved bizarrely from York to Stockport for work.
Wow, no way, right.
So outside of work, I don't know that he had a massive circle of friends. And I think that's another reason for why I was really keen on menfulness. And a lot of the guys have come to menfulness because they've landed in York for work and they need to find a social community that's not work, family life, you know, and that's where I think menfulness has been so important, in that I think that tackling of loneliness and just bringing people together, you know, and, you know, you have an event, you go to the retro gaming night, or you go and play football together, or you do the walk and talk, and that shared experience, you know, it's coming, baby.
I do. Lay it on me.
You know, it creates friendship chemistry.
I knew it.
Now, the boys hate this phrase, but it's something that, it's one that they won't let me get involved, like, you know, anywhere. But it's that thing. It's like that little bit of glue that holds you and that person. It's that bit of sticky tape that holds you two together before you can develop it into an actual friendship.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's, you know, like if you go on a stag do with a load of people you don't really know, and you go paintballing, or you go like quad bike riding, or whatever. Yeah. At the start of that quad bike ride, you sort of stood there and you're a bit like, oh. Yeah. Depends who you are. Yeah. But I'll be stood there and a bit like, all right, yeah. Not really knowing what to say, or you do that, you finish that, and then you go for a meal or go wherever you go in. Yeah. And you're already then talking about that event. Yeah. And that's the sticky glue. That's the friendship chemistry. You've got a shared experience together. Now you've got something to talk about, which you can then lead into, or
a multitude.
Often leads into, and I'm not saying like into a big, deep, meaningful like mental health conversation.
Might be though. Has been.
Could be. Could not. Could just be one that you then find out that you both like ice hockey, or you both like football, or you both like cooking. You know. Yeah. And any of those.
For me, the first time I walked into retro gaming night,
the chemistry was palpable.
I walked up and down. I walked up and down a few times, and was like, "Hang on, no, you're one of the organisers here. Yeah. Come on, like get in there."
Oh, there's a pressure in there.
There was a pressure, but also like prior to that, most of my anxiety had been around people that I knew, like large groups of my own friends. Really, but I felt like there was a pressure on. I felt like I wasn't in the best mindset. Yeah, and I walked in. And I think it was Jack who was at the bar with someone, and he introduced me. And this guy was like, I've ummed and ahed about coming in. I've driven all the way from Selby, parked outside, and I've ummed and ahed about coming in because I'm anxious. And I was like, fucking hell, right. Me too. That's exactly how I feel. So I don't know what you do. I've only just literally basically learnt your name. And actually now we have friendship chemistry.
Yeah.
I've never used that term. I might bleep that out. I'm probably going to bleep that out.
You better not. No, this is,
In fact, I might bleep it all out. The
Jack could advocate that.
but you're right. Is that there's something that you can speed up the process of friendship with, and usually that's honesty.
Well, there has to be a shared something. Otherwise, why would you get talking to people?
Yeah.
It's very, you go on the tube in London. Does anyone speak to anyone?
Well, we once played charades on the train.
Yeah.
And people joined in.
Yeah.
When they thought,
do you know why?
Why can't you get the answer to that? And they had the answer.
Yeah.
They shouted out. But then you turn to them and go, well, you got it. It's your go. And they were, and then they'll have a go. It's
friendship chemistry. Because you've got a shared, you've had a shared experience.
Yeah.
Of playing that game.
Yes.
You take out the charades.
Yes.
Are you speaking to that person?
Yeah. Oh, so the whole friendship chemistry thing, you mean it. You really mean it. It's not a joke. I thought you just said it to piss Jack off.
Well, I think what happened was, mate, is I said it, and I genuinely thought, I actually had more conviction about that than Menfulness. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, no, you're not saying that, you cheesy, horrible, like, how...
Try to veto it.
Honestly, like, how dare you? And I was just like, no, I believe in this. And I do. And I think it's a genuine thing, like, and you can call it a shared experience or whatever, but it's that little bit of glue, that little spark between the two of you that just sets you off down that track of getting to know each other better.
Yeah. I call it permission. It's slightly different, but what I find in this group...
Doesn't sound as good, though,
no,
does it?
Is that if you're prepared to disclose a little bit about what you've got going on, little bit, people feel comfortable about saying what they've
100%.
got going on a bit. And then once you've got past that point, in that both of you go, we might not have the same situation, we might be going through different things, but the depths we can get to, the darkness we might feel but want to escape from
100%.
is not dissimilar, and we can relate to that if nothing else.
And that, Sam, is why you are brilliant at this. Because you give so much permission.
Yeah.
And that's why you're so good at this.
Yeah. I'm an oversharer, but also a part of that. This is why I believe that I've turned what once was a weakness into a purpose almost. Is that once upon a time it felt like oversharing.
Yep.
It felt like maybe you talk too much, maybe you waffle, maybe you use 1,000 words to say 10. I do. Some call me Sam waffling, right? But the reality is that I do that because I want to be understood. We all want to be validated. We all want to connect with our fellow human. Again, it goes back to we're pack animals. We need to be. For survival, we would 100%. Have needed to be included.
Well, because if you weren't included, you died.
Exactly. So for me, part of that is, why not just talk about what's actually going on? Yes, you can say how much you know about football. Yeah, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Yes, you can say something funny. I've used humour for a long time. But also to say, I'm fucking really struggling with this thing right now, that cuts through quite a lot of stuff.
Of course it does.
But most people are going through something.
But like you say, then it's that permission, and that's kind of what we've built in Menfulness. Is you go into a room in there and the permission's granted.
Yeah.
By being at the event.
Yeah.
That permission is
already
granted. You have already got permission to talk, not talk.
Yeah.
Do whatever just be you. However you want to do it, however you want to think it, however you can just do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Amazing. Now, I wanted to talk to you because we've touched briefly on sport and fitness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know it's important. I know it's important to you, but how important is it to you for your headspace? You make time for the gym. You go gym, right? You do football quite regularly.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it, but yeah, okay. And I don't just lean on things, taking selfies of myself. But yeah, it doesn't quite always get the. I think probably I won't say I've battled with my weight. It fluctuates up and down, up and down, up and down, and it's sort of when we were having children and stuff. It got reasonably high and a lot higher than it than it should ever really, you know. And I was sort of about 17 and a half stone, which is, for someone my frame is too much really.
Right.
So yeah, but sports always played a huge part of my life. You know, I go back to when I was a kid, and I mean, bless my dad, he used to drive me all over the place. You know, I'd play rugby twice a weekend. I'd play football the same weekend. You know,
Yeah.
like sometimes I'd literally come home, eat my lunch, and go straight back out again, and I wouldn't even change my socks and my boots.
Wow.
You know,
So
and
footy and rugby, both important, because usually you kind of choose one, don't you?
yeah, and I think I was just equally bad at both, so I couldn't really pick between the two. So, but yeah, I mean, and it's, you know, and it's one of them things, you get a newfound respect for your parents, and like in my case, it was generally my dad who came to the football and the rugby, you know, because I've stood on the sidelines freezing myself to death nearly watching the boys, but nothing gives you greater pleasure,
Yeah.
like, you know, than seeing them achieve, you know, or seeing them score a goal, even if they're getting absolutely trounced,
Just having a go.
7-0.
Yeah.
If they score, the look on their face and being present for that is just,
Yeah.
there's nothing better. You know, Martha had a dance recital on Sunday, never been prouder of her, you know, and I loved just being able to watch her, and she does the thing I do. She had a real serious face on, like, it was just
The best
I
thing
don't
ever.
want to use the word magical because it sounds so like twee, doesn't it? But like it just was.
Says the guy who friendship chemistry is the thing.
That's cool, all right. There's nothing twee about it.
it's magic. Yeah, I get it, man.
So yeah, and like, you know, you go back to the, you know, being truly present at that time is important, you know, and that's sort of where the idea for the football came from for Menfulness, really, is that I knew it would work. I'd sort of played pickup games in York under different guises before, and I knew that it would work, and it was just a case of getting the attitude right so that everybody was welcome,
Yeah.
making it accessible, and just making it regular. And
Well, it started Mondays, was it? Started once a week. Started Wednesdays.
Started Wednesdays, and we did all right. We weren't scratching around for players, but we had to push it a bit just to get the numbers up.
Yeah.
But once we got going, because it was just a laugh.
Yeah.
It's a laugh, mate. It's not
Yeah.
about, you know, I remember the first post I put out, and it was like, you know,
Yeah.
all abilities welcome. You know,
Yeah.
Vinnie
And
Jones
you
need
do
not
sort
apply.
Yeah, you did say that. You wonder if that's what it means, because I went to Leeds for a bit and played with my mates, and I enjoyed it, but we were stuck in a league. We were put in the mid. I think we replaced another team midway through a league. Immediately got trounced by everyone.
It's boring.
Everyone's
isn't it?
taking it really seriously. It's not just boring. Like for me, it was like people would tut in when I missed a fucking pass, or it all got a little bit too. And there was big challenges going in. It wasn't all that pleasant.
Yeah.
And I've never been all that good. I wanted to go and see my mates.
I
I
don't know,
wanted an
mate.
excuse to see my
You
mates.
hold your own, mate. You hold your own.
Well, but the beauty of this game is that actually you barely even keep score.
Well, we don't.
No.
I mean, we might do first to two in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And generally, we're all that knackered.
Yeah.
You know, but for me, like, I've never understood that, like, tutting at people because they miss a pass.
No.
Or tutting at people who miss a chance. They deliberately miss it, dickhead.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm doing my best.
wanted to score.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just didn't, like, I didn't have the talent or the ability, or it just came off my foot wrong,
Yeah.
which is pretty much not having the talent or the ability. But, you know, it just didn't work out for
Yeah.
me. It's not like
No. And I think for me, that all kind of goes back to, I remember school, I remember going back, like, I remember coming to year 7 and like everyone else was massive and had beards.
Yeah.
And I was like, still felt like I was at primary school, and suddenly they want me to play rugby with all these massive, what then felt like giants, and I was like, well, actually, I don't like this, and I'm never getting picked for this, and it kind of unearths that feeling in you of ineptitude,
inadequacy,
and you don't really want that when you're going into a masculine environment, playing a game. You just want to have a good time.
Yeah.
You maybe it's as much for me. For a runabout, I want fitness. I want to be able to. That start-stop is good, isn't it?
Yeah,
the adrenaline when you're on the ball.
Training.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And you know what? having a laugh,
Yeah.
and just having a giggle and missing a shot and scoring a goal and, falling over the ball, and people fall over the ball and the game stops to make sure they've not hurt themselves.
Yeah.
When they've not hurt themselves, we have a giggle. So it started on the Wednesday nights being run by Darren and Sai. And I mean, Darren's just an incredible success story in Menfulness.
Yeah.
I mean, great guy. Brought his son down. Kane used to come down as well.
Watching them play against each other is some of
it's
the funniest
hilarious.
times.
Yeah. But also like watching, I mean, I've watched Darren's video and like watching the change in them as people was so incredible. And then, fortunately, Darren changed jobs and he can't commit to it anymore, which is great. And then, so we had the Wednesday one, and then it was like, right, we need to get another one. This is booking out like a month in advance. People can't get playing, and I don't want people turning away. So, right, we need to get another night going, and as the purse string holder, I'm like, right, well, it's got to be financially viable.
Yeah.
But I don't want people donating more than £4 a game.
Yeah.
£4 is about my limit, and I think as a suggested donation. I mean, you don't have to donate; you can pay a penny.
Yeah.
If you haven't got the brass, you haven't got the brass. But I don't think that's really happened at all. But don't let that put somebody off. And Sunday nights were better priced than the other nights. You see,
Right. It was cheaper to.
well, we
hire the
were
pitch.
lucky that the guys that play football gave us a better rate.
They've been incredible.
Ollie and Aaron, just top blokes, and they gave us a better rate because of what we were trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So the Sunday nights were born, and I was a bit worried about Sunday nights because they were 60. That was 16 players, so not 12, 16, because it's a 7-a-side
bigger pitch. Yeah.
And then they picked up, and some people preferred a bigger pitch to a smaller pitch, and vice versa. Some people went to both.
Yeah.
And then they were filling up every single week, and it was like, right, we'll have to get another night going here.
Yeah.
So, and then we got the Friday nights going. So now we've got Wednesday, Friday, Sundays. So we've got Sai, Aidan, and Tom running the nights. What have we got? 40 blokes a week
That's amazing.
playing
isn't it?
football.
That's amazing.
Sometimes 42 or 44 if I know Aidan likes to jemmy us up to the big pitch on a Friday if the
He
numbers
does,
are
doesn't he?
right. Yeah, so you might have you've got over 40 blokes. Sometimes the same bloke might play twice a
Yeah.
week, but sometimes it's 40 different blokes every week getting out of the house, having a kickabout, chilled out,
Enjoying each other's company.
What on earth could be better than that?
Yeah. The beauty as well is that it's largely self-funding. So actually, it's not like we're.
It pays for itself.
Yeah, it pays for itself. This thing is, everyone I've spoken to about it loves it. And when I get a chance to go down, I love it. And there's a WhatsApp group so people can talk football. They can talk about the game they've just had or what's coming. There's been quite a bit lately about trying to G each other up to actually go, considering how cold and wet it is and stuff.
There's like, the usual memes and GIFs about like Mr. Freeze, I must have seen Arnie about 3 times. Like ready for tonight, boys. All that kind of stuff. And it's great. And that like that social aspect of it has been phenomenal, really.
Yeah.
Like and I just and it's credit to the guys who turn up, I go maybe once a week, sometimes twice, sometimes I won't go for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's credit to the guys running it, because what they've done is not only are they running it, they're giving out the bibs. So you've got, like I say, Sai, Aidan and Tom. They're doing all that, but they are the gatekeepers of our ethos as well.
Yes.
So they are making sure that the
As soon
game...
as someone tuts, which I don't think happens.
It doesn't, because we're pack animals.
Yeah.
Nobody behaves like that. So
it's I expected that we would have to...
I'm amazed that we
It's the same with all of our groups, though. No, we very rarely have to say it's not what this is about.
Yeah, and that's been... I mean, it's been incredible, that. And, and that's just great.
Yeah.
Because there's some phenomenal footballers.
Oh, God.
And there's some lesser footballers. But what I quite like is that sometimes you'll see the phenomenal footballer give the lesser footballer maybe an extra second or two just to get over the ball.
I mean, I've played on the same team as Sam before, Big Sam. I feel like I'm little Sam.
Yeah.
And the times that he's passed to me and I've been thinking, what are you doing passing to me?
Yeah.
You can shoot from there. And so, I think that is important to recognise, is that we want each other to be better.
Yeah, and people are giving, like, not just metaphorical space to open up, but they're actually giving people a bit of space to just get the ball under control.
Yes. Because that was always it for me, especially with five-a-side, is I'm not too bad at controlling the ball when I'm looking right at it.
Yeah.
But then being able to control it, move it on, and look up at where my options are, all in the space. I haven't got time for that. And so that comes with a lot of practice.
But you're not going to get cleaned up, are you?
No.
And no one's going to come through you.
And also you can think, right, I can get better at this, knowing that even if I lose the ball 9 times out of 10, it don't matter.
No, it don't matter.
And I can get better in a sort of friendly environment.
Yeah,
so.
No one's going to get grumpy with you.
No.
And it's funny, like...
Oh, man, I'm so terrible in goal. I mean, I'll jump out of the way of some of the shots that come in.
Well, yeah. I mean, Tom's shots are unbelievable.
Yeah,
right? I mean, he's getting out of the way of those. This face is not getting hit right,
Not the moneymaker.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, man, it's so... Yeah, that's...
Do you remember what Aidan said? Have you listened to Aidan's podcast?
Aidan
talked about the time that you looked at him and went, "That'll do, pig."
Yeah, you'll do.
That's it. Sorry. In my mind, you have a flat cap on and you say, "That'll do, pig."
Yeah,
that's lovely though, because for him, that not only was
Groucho,
it was a big moment for him, but also it's helped him in the way that it welcomes other blokes into his role as volunteer leading the football. So it's kind of full circle in that respect.
Yeah, which is great. I've never been the big gesture guy.
No.
I've never, ever been the big gesture guy. It's not... And I wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
I'm not really that kind of grandstanding kind of guy about...
No.
So it's just like... Yeah, nice one.
Yeah. And you are gymming quite regularly now, are you?
Yeah,
so
well,
as well as the football,
I know how important exercise is to me as an individual for my mental health.
Yeah.
And, for sort of like weight and stuff like that. And, and it's all those kind of things really, isn't it? Like
sometimes it's physique and confidence. For me, less so about, yes, I had a bit of a belly over lockdown. I drank too much. There was a word for it, wasn't there? Not loitering. What was the word? There was a new term used for what people did over lockdown. I can't remember what it was, but it sort of meant like just festering, and I did a lot of that. Languishing. I think that was it. I think that might have been it. And so, for me, running, I've never been a runner. Never interested in it.
No.
And it wasn't. It started because of my physique and because of my weight, but it carried on beyond that because actually exhausting yourself a little bit
good.
It feels good, and also having a bit of your own control, having some time on your own with your own headphones on your own route, you retain some control over your existence a little bit when everything else might feel out of control.
100%, mate. And I think like I sort of digressed earlier, didn't I? So yeah, I've always had sort of like an up and down sort of like weight sort of thing where I'm always trying to lose a bit of weight and then I put some on and then I lose some and then I put some on.
Yeah.
And and sort of come to the realization of various different things and maybe a bit over lockdown but then sort of crept in. I've sort of noticed that I got into a bit of a habit when the kids, especially with the kids bedtime, I'd crack a beer.
Yeah. And
then maybe I cracked 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And then that became a bit of a habit. Not every night, but sometimes more nights than others.
Maybe not just a Friday, Saturday. Maybe.
Yeah. Like pointless.
Yeah.
Like, and I think I can tell. Like maybe they go hand in hand, but if there's something a bit chaotic going on in my life, that habit becomes more frequent.
Yeah.
So like a few months ago, we had some work done and we were moving ourselves around the house.
Well, weren't you living in the
attic because we're having decorating done and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
And that chaos.
Stressful, man.
But then that chaos, I will drink more frequently. And it's like, well,
it's a relaxant and it's dopamine hit. And it's all that, isn't it?
It is, but it isn't really when you actually sort of break it down. And I've come to realise that I personally can get into bad habits with beer.
Yeah.
Or booze, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it can become the stage where I'm not turning up because it will be.
You always show up, Mike.
It'll be on an evening, but
Yeah.
like, my wife doesn't want to speak to a guy who's had 4 beers most nights or 4 nights out of 7 or whatever. Like, it's just, it's just shitty husbandry, that, as far as I'm concerned, a bit from my point of view. And, and it's like, well, what message am I sending to my boys that, like, oh, it's 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not a good message to put to them. It's not a healthy message to put to them. And so I've kind of been reframing or reframing alcohol in my, and how it fits into me. I don't wake up shaking, and I don't drink at 9 o'clock in the morning. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
it's always 10. 10.
10, yeah, 10, 15. But it's something that I know I need to maybe work on a bit as well sometimes. And it's like, like we're sat here now and I'm having a alcohol.
I was going to say, you've brought your alcohol-frees.
I've brought some alcohol-free beers because I've said to myself, right, I'll have a couple of beers at the weekend or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I might have a few more than a couple sometimes, but I'm not going to drink in a week.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get rid of that habit because I can have a habit of doing that.
Yeah.
And it's not a positive habit for me. And it doesn't, it's not the reflection of me that I want my family to see of me. And I don't want my kids to think that that's how they should show up when they're older, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So that's an awareness, though. That's a self-awareness that I think takes time and experience to grab a hold of. Like for me, I've noticed that for me, alcohol has been like a bit of a crutch around social situations, and it's allowed me, they call it Dutch courage or social lubricant.
Personality beers.
Yeah. The idea that actually if I have a few beers before I go to an event or a thing, instead of being up in my head thinking I need to present in a certain way, I'll be present. And actually, that doesn't need to be the way.
No.
And actually, I'm with you. I'm on a path of reframing myself. I know you've spoken a little bit to Johnny, good friend of mine, who will be on the podcast. He's
a top bloke, isn't he? And
what a true king.
It was so funny because I saw him at the gym, and I'd seen him at the gym 4 months ago or whatever, and we'd had this, and I'd sort of bumped into him. And I'd never actually met him in person, but I was like, I recognise that guy. He's sort of like semi-recognisable, isn't he? Like,
oh yeah,
he's not like me. He doesn't look like the grey man, does he? He's got like longish hair, undercut, earrings, loads of tats. He's pretty stacked, So I was like, oh. And then we got to chatting, and he said, well, funnily enough, I'm moving gyms. And then I saw him, and I said, oh yeah, And he'd put a post out, hadn't he? Did you see his post? And he's sort of saying, I've done 30 days no booze.
Yeah.
My training's going better than ever. And so I had a chat with him, and I said, well, do you know what? Funny you should say that. And this is the thing, isn't it? You've almost got permission then, haven't you, to have a conversation about it? And Johnny's such a cool guy, like. And so I sort of said, do you know what, like that? Like, funny enough, I've started doing this thing and sort of reframing and rethinking my habits when it comes to alcohol, and basically cutting out this habit that I've got, this bad habit that I've got into, which I don't, I'm not. There's no purpose to it. Yeah. I mean, there's no purpose to any kind of drinking, but that sounds a bit sanctimonious, doesn't it? Like, there's no reason. Do you know what I mean?
It's habitual, or it's comfort.
Yeah, sometimes, perhaps. And it's like, oh, I've had a good day. Oh, I'll crack a beer. Oh, I've had a bad day. I'll crack a beer.
Yeah. When do you not crack a beer?
Potentially, that's what you got to look at. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. You got into this sort of like pretty poor habit, really. So you need to have a bit of a word with yourself.
Seeing Jack and Matty not really drink when we go out. I I saw Johnny. Hopefully he won't mind me saying. I'll just beep it out. But he once a few years back put a post up saying, "For every like this post gets, I'll give up alcohol for another day." And it got like over a year's worth of likes. And he gave up for a year. He didn't drink alcohol for a year, and now he's he's reframing it again. So I think it's a socially acceptable drug that we all do or don't participate in. For me, because I'm anxious, because I want to be what everyone expects me to be, have a few, have a great time. The idea of dropping it and still being me at a big event, for example, is concerning. But I know I need that. That makes it more needed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's just a case of just rewiring it and just knocking a bad habit.
Adrian Chiles said he's released a book recently. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
He
What's
said,
it called? It's something. There's something drinker. I can't remember what he called it.
Should remember this, shouldn't I? I'll put it in the description.
Yeah.
But he's there was some quite good advice in there. He's said, rather than quitting, he was doing 100 units a week, I think he said.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't want to quit, but I do want to reduce. So for him, it was like the difference between no pints and 1 or 2 pints. That's the good bit.
Yeah.
Everything after 2 pints is you barely notice it. So actually, start the night with a couple of non-alcoholic drinks, and actually then have 1 or 2, rather than being 3 or 4 deep and not really noticing the difference.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's a habit that I need to just knock on the head, really.
Yeah,
and that's it. And the thing is that I train better.
Yeah,
I eat better.
Yeah,
and the ultimate goal is that I want to lose some timber.
Yeah,
I want to lose some weight, and
it's calories you don't need.
Sticking 1,000 calories down my neck in terms of 4 beers most nights.
Is that what it is? Oh God.
Oh yeah, easy is not conducive to that. So if you think, there you go, a pound of fat is is it 3,500 calories?
No, I don't know. That doesn't sound like that much, does it?
So now it wouldn't be every night for me, but if you did that every night, 4 pints every night at 1,000 calories, that's 2 pounds of fat.
Really? Wow. Right. Yeah. And do you know what I'm starting to learn as well is that delaying gratification is important. For me, the runs, getting up at 6 a.m. and running would have been something I would have never wanted to do once upon a time. Cold showers, talking about my feelings, right? Do you know all these things that we're doing on a daily basis now? Once upon a time would have felt out of my comfort zone, and what I'm realizing more and more is being out of your comfort zone is positive for our physical and mental health. Push yourself, be out of your comfort zone, let yourself feel vulnerable. It's not bad for you. If anything, it's good for you.
No, it's not. And so a pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So, I'm trying to lose some pounds of fat.
Yeah.
And they're just it's empty, pointless calories. But then the knock-on effect is you don't eat very well.
Yeah.
You don't train or you don't run as hard.
Sleeping's not right either.
Yeah. So it's one of them things that I just need to. I'm not saying that I'm going to be. I don't want to be teetotal.
No.
Because I still enjoy having a beer or whatever. But I still will enjoy having a beer. It's just a case of taking out those pointless ones.
Yeah.
In the middle of the week.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
for no reason.
I get that.
And it's like, well, that's just stupid. Like,
I get it. And I bet for some people it's not beer. It's
it could
a
be
milkshake
wine.
or ice cream.
Yeah.
Or it might not even be alcohol,
Well,
but
like I said, I mean, I've listened to all your podcasts. So.
Oh, thank you. Wow.
I told you, a bit of a fan.
Big fan then, yeah?
Yeah. Massive. And it's got me into podcasts. So I actually been listening to one, a podcast about sort of the effects alcohol has on you as a human, which is interesting.
What's that one then?
That is called, I think it's called the Alcohol Rethink podcast or something similar to that. It's really interesting. And this guy is totally teetotal. And he was maybe a bit more extreme than, well, he was a lot more extreme than I was. Yeah, the Alcohol Rethink podcast. He was a lot more extreme in the fact that he would get absolutely trolleyed pretty much all the time and take loads of drugs when he was doing that. And it was having a massive effect on his family life and his children and all that kind of stuff. And but yeah, you say about, the milkshakes. It's interesting because what you then do is for that habitual dopamine hit that you would get from having a couple of beers or whatever, you want it from something else.
Yeah.
So quite often he talks about going into
Food comes next.
You're moving to sugar.
Yeah,
Sugar's a good one.
I'm already there. Like I ate a whole Terry's chocolate orange last night.
Oh, delicious though.
Whole one.
Well,
Like it was an orange.
What kind of psychopath only eats like a few?
Anna had 2 segments.
Is that because you only gave her 2 segments?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's like it's like these psychopaths who only eat 1 Jaffa cake or 3 Jaffa cakes.
Listen,
Like,
I'll eat no Jaffa cakes. Anyone who eats more than no Jaffa cakes is psychopathic to me.
Why?
We probably shouldn't use the term psychopathic so frivolously, should we? It's
but
fair to say, if you're eating Jaffa cakes,
What's
there's
wrong with
something
Jaffa cakes?
deeply wrong with you. They're not cakes, nor are they biscuits.
why are they
There's
not
something
cakes?
weird about them. They've got weird plastic-like bottom, weird gelatin in the middle, orange-flavoured weirdness.
Oh, mate.
The chocolate on the top is dark. Come on, the whole thing's weird.
Well, no, it's milk chocolate.
I thought it was dark chocolate.
No, they're dark chocolate Jaffa cakes.
So normal standard Jaffa cakes are milk chocolate.
Yeah.
Really? I'd lick the top of the Jaffa cake and leave the rest. This is weird. This is the weird thing is that I will eat a full Terry's chocolate orange.
Yeah.
But other than that, don't mix my chocolate with fruit, you weirdo, right? that is the only time ever. Black Forest Gatto, there's something wrong with you. Right? Turkish Delight, I'm not even sure if that is fruit.
No, it's not. It's
What-
it's rose flavoured.
Yeah,
but yeah.
no thank you. Bounty, also that's not a fruit. Is it coconut fruit? Oh God, it's a
It's
nut
a nut,
because it says
hence
it in
the
the name.
name, yeah.
Right, we're deleting all this because I'm really outing
You're
myself.
Sam
as a
waffling.
But what I'm trying to say is that sweets for me, probably
Yeah, yeah.
more than alcohol, are
Whenever-
comfort. If I have them in, I'll eat them.
Yeah,
So what I
yeah.
do is, for me, don't buy them.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
have
yeah.
them in. I'm not going to go to the shop to buy one and eat it. So, but I will crave it. So I guess it's putting things in place that
Yeah.
help you meet those goals.
It's funny because I was thinking to myself, right, I'm off to a podcast with Sam, and I'd sort of said like, oh yeah, and I'll bring some beers with me and stuff, and I'd kind of got it in my head I was going to bring beers,
Yeah.
alcoholic beers, and I thought, and I was kind of mulling it over, and I was thinking, yeah, but this is pointless midweek drinking,
Yeah.
like it's pointless.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, but and I was umming and ahhing, and then I just said to me, like, literally, just had a quick word with myself. Just buy some non-alcoholic beers.
Just don't. Yeah.
And you know what? It was just like,
Yeah.
why didn't you think of that, you dumbass?
Yeah.
Like, just bring some non-alcoholic beers with you. Then you
Yeah.
can sit there with what looks like a beer, isn't
Yeah.
a beer, but
Probably a good time to plug Insta Ales.
yeah,
Menfulness partnership, alcohol-free
100%,
beer.
yeah.
That the part of the reason we got into that was because what we realised was, some blokes like to talk over a beer.
yeah,
Some blokes like to sit down and have a beer at the end of the day. And actually, you don't have to stop that.
yeah.
Even if you want to reduce your alcohol intake, you can still have a beer.
Yeah.
But just have an alcohol-free one.
Exactly, and that's and so I thought, well, yeah, I'll just grab some alcohol-free beers, turn up, happy days,
Yeah.
and really, it's exactly what you just said about that taking control. As soon as I thought to myself, I'm going to buy some alcohol-free beers,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, sound,
Yeah.
totally at peace,
Yeah, that's good.
which
That's
is
good.
weird, isn't it? Like,
Well, but the difficulty, like for me, early mornings is one, right? I know if I get up at 5:45, 6 o'clock and I run,
yeah,
I can be home and showered before anyone else gets up and I feel like a king.
yeah.
I know that's good for me.
Yeah, 100%.
But sometimes Oh, god damn, it's snuggly. Oh, I'll just snooze one more time. I'll just, like, sometimes you know the good thing for you.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know you're going to feel better for doing it, and you still can't doing it. You still can't do it. It's the positive motivation comes after the action. You've got to take the action first, and that's really hard sometimes.
100%.
So fair play to you, sir. So, right, okay. Now, in the form, you put football. When I asked you interests and hobbies, you put football / cookery / rugby.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that's clear that your cookery is sandwiched in between two very sports-related things. You've sandwiched the food in there.
Yeah.
So, is that a metaphor? Do you like sandwiches? What is your go-to dish? I have eaten some of your ribs. It's not a euphemism. You put on a good spread, sir.
Yeah.
Also not a euphemism. Tell me about it. Are you the cook in the house?
I think we share it. I love cooking.
Yeah.
It's kind of, don't want to sound twee again, but like kind of my happy place. Like I love cooking. Like,
yeah.
I love creating stuff. I love feeding people.
Yeah.
It's a way of making people happy.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if it tastes all right.
It does.
And it's just nice. It's nice, and I think I don't know, lots of people cook. I think it's a little bit of a lost art in places that people sort of don't do it as much. And I think there's nothing more sort of thoughtful than cooking for somebody or making something for somebody's birthday or whatever, and drop it, and just doing something nice for somebody. So,
you made me those chocolate. What did you make me?
Chocolate tart.
No one's ever made me a tart before.
Was it all right?
It was really good. I think you gave all credit to kids as well. But it felt,
was that the brownies?
It felt at a high level. No, it was definitely a tart.
That was your birthday, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. So I love cooking.
And you get them involved and stuff, do you, as well?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. They love it. And I love it. And Helen loves cooking. She's a really good cook. And yeah, it's something that I think genuinely if it paid me what I get paid now and the hours were as good, I would rather cook.
A chef.
Yeah.
In another life.
Yeah, definitely. I love it.
What's your go-to dish then? What's your favourite to cook or to eat?
I love cooking a roast dinner.
Yeah, me too.
Christmas dinner, love it. The gravy's been made 3 weeks. It's frozen. It's ready.
Is that a good way to do it? Is make it earlier and freeze it up so then you're not stressing out on the day?
Yeah.
I mean, did I cook for 10? I think I cooked for 10 last year. I can't do that again. It's too stressful.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's prep,
isn't
cold
it? By the time
roast dinner 90% is prep, isn't it? Let's be honest. Then getting everything in the oven at the right time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like cooking. I like trying different, like doing like sort of more traditional stuff. I like going out and doing like Asian sort of cooking or whatever. Really, I'll just I enjoy it, like and getting to the end of it, or just mashing something up that I'm making up myself.
So you'll try your hand at whatever, will you?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, years ago you had to have a recipe book for everything. Now you just Googleize it, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like, you can though, can't you? Other search engines are available, but there's...
Well, ask Jeeves.
Yeah.
Nobody asks Jeeves anymore, do they?
You know what I mean? What was it? AOL it or whatever it was, But like, even the kids say it. They'll say like, oh, Daddy, how far's the sun from the earth? And I'm like, chuffing it.
Good few miles, that.
It's a fair way, lad. And I'll just Google it.
Is it 8 minutes at the speed of light?
No idea. How many miles is that?
8 light minutes, I think.
8 light minutes.
Isn't a light second? Oh, listen, I don't know. I'm going to go off on one here. It's not going to be right.
You're just fucking making it up, you.
Yeah, man.
You and the universe. But yeah, so I love cooking. It's a massive passion of mine.
And feeding the kids, like you giving them the nutrients they need to survive, to get big and strong, and they get to watch you in the kitchen making them
get them to do it.
Yeah. Because then it's an activity they can do, and you get to eat it at the end.
100%. I mean, what could be better? You do something, and you get to eat at the end of it.
Yeah, that's good.
Brilliant.
I like that.
So it's good, and it's just something that I mean, I was fortunate that my mum's a really good cook.
Yeah.
And that Helen's a good cook, and I try my hand and try my best, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
Like, and you just sort of zone out a bit, and like you say, you get the kids involved, try and get them to make stuff, try and make sure they don't put any snot in anything. But it's just nice, isn't it? It's nice stuff to do, isn't it? And like you say, you've got a rainy day, you can pass a bit of time, you can make some stuff, and then you get to eat it.
And it's mindful in some ways, isn't it? You're focused on what it is that you're doing at that time, because you've got to be.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a holiday for the brain if you're an overthinker and stuff.
And it's a weird one, because like, since listening to your podcast, I've become a bit of a podcaster. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts. But I don't listen to podcasts when I'm cooking.
No.
Weirdly, they like put me off.
What do you have on while you're cooking?
I might have music on, but quite often nothing.
Just you.
Just silence.
Yeah.
And like, and I know that sounds really weird, because I know loads of people love cooking to the radio, and I will cook to the radio sometimes, but quite often it's like...
Depends on my concentration levels. I know some people say, I like to work to music. It's like, if I'm listening to music, I'm going to be focused on the music. I can't write or work while there's a song on. Maybe lo-fi hip-hop, if it's really just minimal. But yeah, I can't focus on those two things at once.
But quite often I'll sort of daydream, and I'll be thinking about chopping onions, which is weird, isn't it? But like, genuinely, like, it's just a bit of a relaxing place I'll just float off to. Like, most people are on like a beach and like, like with more Chiba playing, like the old shipwreck thing.
You're chopping onions in silence.
Chopping onions. Yeah. Chopping onions with a list of what else I need to put in it, listy Mike.
Well, speaking about content and what we listen to, we do like to try, as we get to the end of our podcast, to talk to people about the music and the content that means something to them. So, first of all, I'm trying to figure out a name for this. Something along the lines of contentment. The content for contentment, something like that. You've talked about a book that you love. Content for contentment. What content makes you content?
We'll discuss this afterwards.
Listen, from the guy who friendship chemistry is the one. Yeah, all right. He's pointing to the Menfulness poster. Okay, I'll give you that. For everyone, you drop a ball. We're talking A Million Little Pieces. James Frey, the book. I've not read it myself. Tell me about it. Why does it mean so much to you?
I don't know. It's a funny one, but it's one of the first books that had like a kind of semi-profound effect on me. And I read it. I haven't read it for 15, 18 years, probably. I'm not a very good book reader. I don't read a lot of books unless I'm on holiday or something like that. I think probably one of the last books I read would have been Walking the Amazon by, I can't remember his first name, somebody Stafford, which was an incredible book. But I'm not a big, but I read this book. It was recommended to me by a friend of mine. And it's essentially about a bloke who's got a heroin addiction who goes into rehab. And it sort of charts his sort of bit of his demise into rehab, very short bit of demise into rehab, and then this process through rehab, and it's not happy-go-lucky kind of thing. There are happy-go-lucky moments in it, but it's a really interesting read of a book about just sort of what you go through, and it's just
recovery from addiction, is it?
Yeah. Basically, he's a massive Class A drugs addict.
Yeah.
And he sort of makes friendships in there, and it's about like what he was going through coming off these drugs and things like that. Like, I think he has a root canal, and he's at the point where he's given up drugs, and he won't have any painkillers, because he said, I'm not having any drugs whatsoever. And I remember him describing the pain as white hot pain.
He has a root canal with no
anesthesia whatsoever, and the description in the book is incredible, the way it's written.
Yeah. It's written by him, so he is the guy.
Oh no! It's not a biography. It's not a biography, but it's from the perspective of this individual, and it's just a really good book. It's a really good read.
Yeah.
And so it's when I think of books that have had an effect on me, that's the first one that crops into my mind, kind of thing, straight away.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Couldn't really say the shoot annual of 97, could I?
You have, and it will be on our list, sir. What about you've put a movie in here, Family Man. Family Man is Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
This is like late 90s, is it?
Mid to late 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a proper...
I think I've seen it, but I can't remember what...
It's a weird one, really, because funny enough, I forced Helen to watch it the other day. And we... it's kind of sort of semi-Christmassy. And it's essentially about a bloke who is with his high school sweetheart, and he goes off to London to work for some brokerage, and she's going to be some high-flying lawyer. And then it cuts to sort of X amount of time in the future, 15 years. It doesn't say how many years. And he's this like massive dickhead, basically, executive, string of like sort of women on the go, massive penthouse apartment,
rich,
like stupidly rich, doesn't give a crap about anybody really. Okay. It's Christmas Eve, and he schedules in. It's like 6 p.m. and he's making his staff stay at work, and
It sounds a bit like a Christmas carol.
Yeah, he's a bit like Scrooge, right? So he's like, and all he cares about is getting this massive mega deal done and all this, and then he schedules another meeting for Christmas Day, and then he sort of just goes into this shop, and Don Cheadle's in it, and he comes in as this like little sort of gangster guy, and he ends up threatening the shop assistants.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and he basically sorts this sort of issue out, and then it gets to chatting to this Don Cheadle character, and he sort of tries to talk him out of it, and sort of tries to save him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, da. And then he wakes up the next day, and it's Christmas morning, as his life would have been had he stayed with his childhood sweetheart. So they've got 2 kids. Yeah. He's in a relationship with his childhood sweetheart, but it's a bit like, bit like Big kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's still the guy he was.
Yes. But suddenly he's got kids. He's not rich anymore.
Yeah. So it's Christmas morning, and he has this massive like sort of panic kind of like thing. Jumps in his minivan, not his Lamborghini or Ferrari or whatever it is, drives into the city, and of course none of these people know who he is.
Yeah. And
he's like arguing with the doorman at his fancy apartment complex and all this. And then he has a chat with Don Cheadle, who explains that this is called a glimpse and yada, yada, yada. And there's just like, I just really liked it. I've always really liked it. And there's a point where like his daughter, who's quite precocious in it, I've got a baby and probably about 4 or 5 year old. And she sort of says to me, like, where's my, like, she's sort of crying, and she's like, where's my dad? Like, you're not my dad, kind of thing. Like she sort of picks up on it kind of first. Like,
that he's not who he's...
Yeah, he's not the same person behind the body, kind of thing. And things like that. And he don't really react very well to that. And then there's a point later on in the film where he's got into the swing of this thing, and he's actually loves it, and he's like, he's not a dick, and he's like become this guy. This
realised that might have been a more fulfilling life.
Yeah. And there's like various different like little bits and bats going through it all, and there's loads of little moral stories through it, which I think are really good. And his little girl, he gets me every time. I told you I'm soppy. She turns around to him. I can't remember what's going on. And he's doing that thing where he's like multitasking about 7 different things. He's got like a bottle under his arm, like feeding the baby, and like doing this and changing that. And she just turns around to him, and he's just like, I knew you'd come back. But it's the same guy.
Yeah. And
it's like, and I don't know why. And it's funny you should say this, because we watched it, and Helen said to me, she says, what is it about this film that you love so much? And I'm like, do you know what, Helen? I don't know. I don't know whether it's the father thing about it. Well,
you're a multitasker. You're the one carrying the bottle and doing all the...
But I like this film way before I had kids. It's just one of them films that's just... It just had loads of the right morals in it. And I think I just saw a guy that I aspired to be. And maybe I saw a bit of my dad in that guy as well. And I thought, that's what I aspire to be like, is not the dick who's got the penthouse.
Yeah.
Like that guy, and like have that like sort of not ideal, like not perfect life. He's struggling to make ends meet in places, but he makes people happy. I think
Yeah.
is the kind of thing.
What I like as well is that you could easily be in a situation and think, maybe if I had more money or a better car or this thing, that would make me happy. I think those types of films help you realise that that there's always a life that you didn't quite lead, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a better one.
Well, it's human nature. You always want a little bit more.
Of course.
But right, if everybody got £100 more a month, you'd think to yourself, "Whoa, yeah, that's gonna be mint. Another £100. Give it a year, you won't even notice it."
Yeah, yeah. So we've also got, for the record, your tunes. So we've got Happy Songs. You'll Be in My Heart by Phil Collins.
Oh, I love that song.
It's a big tune, man.
It is a big tune. I think it's just one that Martha would loved Tarzan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The theme tune, is it?
Yeah, it's pretty much the theme tune to Tarzan. And so it holds loads of cool special memories. So if I put it on or something like that, it's always one that kind of makes me happy. I mean, mate, I could have picked thousands of songs.
Yeah.
But I tried to go for the ones that just like pop in my head straight away, bang. And that was like straight away just makes me think of like, yeah, that kind of cool stuff. Like, yeah.
Positive, empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's good.
Yeah, that kind of protector kind of song as well, like, I don't know. So that's one that I'm, yeah.
I love that. I love how Disney films can do that as well. Like at the moment, Luna is massively into Moana. She just wants it again and again and again. We're through that phase at the moment where it's like she
Do you know
doesn't
the
get
rap
bored of
by
stuff.
heart yet?
Not quite. I
can
think I've
see
probably
what's
watched it.
happening here. You're face to face with greatness and it shows.
Mate, you are like The Rock to me. And yeah, so we've also got Hold My Hand, Lady Gaga.
Yeah, man.
Where's this one from then?
So that's from Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, this is a new one, is it?
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, that was a good film.
It was a very good film, mate.
Really good. I don't remember that song in it, but I do remember how much I enjoyed that film.
And if you listen to the lyrics of that song,
yeah,
it's just everything I want a song to have in terms of message.
Yeah.
So it's just, hold my hand, everything will be all right.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Just it's a really nice song. I really like Lady Gaga's voice. I think it's fantastic. I really like The Film Star Is Born. Loads of the music out of that.
That was amazing, wasn't it?
Some of the songs in that are incredible.
Yeah.
Like they could have easily been on there.
Yeah.
But that one at the minute is one that I go to a lot and I throw out on the internet-enabled speaker.
Brilliant. Thanks, man. And then sad song, we've got Sam Fender, Spit of You.
Yeah.
What a tune.
It's a right tune. And there's a few that I could probably pick. So I think this one, for me, I think it's a funny one, really, because it's got two kind of meanings for me, this song. So I think about my dad a little bit with this one. And I think maybe I wasn't old enough for him to speak to me, but I feel like I could have spoken to him better, maybe, about what went on when it went on. But it's a bit of a reflective song for me. So if I've had a bit of a falling out with my eldest or one of my other kids, but quite often the boys maybe, or one of the boys, and maybe I feel like I could have handled it better.
Yeah.
I get a bit, I don't know whether melancholic is the right word, but I get a bit sort of reflective about it. And I put this on and I'm like, you need to be someone they can talk to. You've got to be better than you were then. Like,
wow,
getting frustrated or doing this, or do you know what I mean? Like,
I do, yeah.
That conversation didn't go the direction that I wanted it to go in.
This is the one where he says, "I can talk to anyone, I can't talk to you."
Yeah,
yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself that the last thing I want is George being the person singing those words to me,
right?
Because the video is so impactful.
It is, yeah. This got Stephen Graham in it.
Yeah.
What a video! What a performer! Just Sam Fender in general, his songs are just. Matty had "Dead Boys" as one of his tunes.
Yeah, and that one just sticks with me. So, and I find myself sometimes just putting it on and just sort of thinking to myself, you should have done better with that conversation. You should have maybe handled that conversation a bit better. So,
That's got to be hard as a parent as well, is that throughout you're trying to be true to yourself, but also better than you, because you want better for your kids than what you are. So that's
and I mean, look, I mean, Helen's so much better at handling some of the conversations with the kids, and I sometimes I don't handle it as well as I could, but then I think, well, that's part of growth, isn't it? It's reflecting on yourself, looking at yourself, maybe saying, well, maybe I shouldn't have shouted, or I shouldn't have snapped, or I shouldn't have, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something that I reflect on quite a lot. I think it's something that especially now, as I say, I use George as a reference point, but as he's getting sort of 9, 10, and I'm thinking, I want him to be able to open up to me.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, he's got a son. I've been friends with him for like 10 years. His son's just turned 18 and went through some real trials and tribulations to his son. But he totally could open up to my mate. It was fantastic. Like, and I went out for like something to eat with my friend, as we do every so often, and like went out for we had a couple of drinks, and he was sort of explaining what had gone on, and he'd had a real hard time with his son, and he'd been really worried, and I was like, yeah, but mate, like, he's come and had this conversation with you, and like, that's incredible that like you've got that level of like respect with each other, that he's been able to tell you something that he knows is like you're going to be really pissed off about.
Yeah.
But then you're both in a position in your relationship together that at that 16, 17, 18-year-old age, which is like really tricky, he's felt so confident that he could have that conversation with you as his dad. I think is incredible.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, if I could get to that with my kids, I'll feel like I've succeeded.
Yeah. Well, with that mindset, mate, then there's no reason why not.
Well, hopefully not, mate. I mean, we just try, you just try your best, don't you? And sometimes you don't do as well as you wanted to, and sometimes you do better than you thought you were going to do.
Yeah.
And I try not to dwell on it, and that's kind of like, I listen to that maybe 2 or 3 times on repeat, because I'm a bit like that, and then I could kind of move on from it, and I'm just a bit, but it just, that's like that's my kind of reflection song a bit in that kind of sense, which is maybe a bit of an odd one.
No, it's not at all. It hits me because I remember talking to my dad about feeling anxious, and his response was, well, what have you got to be anxious about? Like, why would you be anxious? And look, I love the man to bits. He's done nothing but good things for me my entire life, and I don't know whether he'll listen to this or not, because we haven't talked about it. But I don't think he'd mind me saying that's how he responded. And actually, in his mind, it was probably partly literally not having ever experienced it himself. So how could you empathise? But also partly, I've done enough to get you to this point. Why are you now anxious? And in my mind, it was, if I've got all these things and my life should be perfect and I'm still anxious, then that's why it's a problem. It's not what you've got or who you know or how good things are for you.
The thing is, though, like, if you suffer from anxiety or you get anxious, you could have £200 million. You could have £2. You'd still be anxious. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing you can do about that, is there? You could have no money and you'd obviously be anxious because you haven't got any money. You could have £200 million. Yeah. If you're anxious, these people are only friends with me because I've got £200 million. Yeah. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because you look at that generationally.
Yes.
Like that sort of stuff just didn't exist, really, did it? Like, there was no. I'm not saying there was no such thing as it, but it was just not
talked about, understood.
No.
Validated.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. It wasn't. It did exist, but it wasn't. Its existence wasn't validated.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for me, that song does massively hit home, and I think it's brilliant, and I'm glad you've put it in there, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I finally got you. I think this might be a record for length. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. But I'm like, genuinely, I'm so chuffed that you came. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for your contribution to Menfulness generally, behind the scenes, in front at the football, everything that you do to kind of help us as a group.
Well, thank you, mate, and thank you for getting me into podcasts, and just thank you for being you, mate. And
Can't help it.
Well, you can't, mate, and it's you're a blessing. So thank you.
You too, man. Until next time.
Yeah.
Can we do this again?
Yeah, damn right we can.
Let's not leave it so long next time.
Yeah.
Love you, mate.
Yeah. Take care, buddy.
See you soon.